completely out of the blue, just listening this morning about the Mass Observation Project, I remembered reading a fantastic volume when I was an undergraduate student, so years and years ago, on the English pub by the Mass Observation Project called The Pub and People. And I was convinced that the research was disrupted. And during the break, I had a look at Google, and there's this fantastic bit in here where it says, in preparing this book for publication, a source of difficulty has been the dispersal of the unit, which originally undertook the main field work. John Somerville, who led the field work, has been serving in the RAF for 2 years. And it goes on the whole list of people who have been conscripted at the start of the war and how the work has been disrupted. And I think it's just it's a fantastic thing to reflect on. This is probably not the first disruption to research, but I'd recommend it as a read for anyone who's got spare time on their hands. One of the things that I was going to say is I've started to think of things as, I'm going to start referring to things as BC, i.e. before COVID, and after all this, things as AC, after COVID. But today's really about DC, I guess, during COVID. And I think these are really important phases to think of how research has changed or is changing. I'm going to briefly talk about validity and trustworthiness. And there was a very good article in Nature just before Christmas, and it was saying that around 4% of the world's research output has been devoted to the coronavirus in 2020, according to some database searches that they undertook. And they said that there was a sort of sharp increase in articles on all subjects being submitted to scientific journals. But one of the things that's come out of it is the sort of increased use of preprint servers and those sorts of technologies. So it said, and again, the articles, it can be followed up if you're interested. But so really, I'm kind of thinking about some of the things that may emerge. And one of the things I want to briefly get a discussion on is research transparency. So what might this mean for us? And for me, the following things: greater transparency may mean an increase in the capacity to understand how the research was conducted, help other scholars evaluate analyses undertaken, aid the detection of errors and inconsistencies, facilitate the incremental development of work, contribute to limiting negative research practices, and provide extra safeguards against nefarious practices, and finally improve confidence in results both within and beyond the academic community. And one of the things that's been a key feature of the pandemic is people turning their research agendas very quickly and their focus to obviously to aspects of the pandemic, and the absolute desire to get research results, empirical results out as quickly as possible, because we're in the DC phase, we're in the during COVID phase, so we haven't got the normal luxury of reflecting, being more reflexive and so on, and we definitely don't have the luxury, not luxury is the wrong word, we don't normally have the normal sort of long run that scientific and social scientific publication takes. So we've had to kind of rapidify, some people have used this word, rapidify the sort of peer review and publication process. And this means, working in new ways. But we've really got to think about it in terms of what, hoping we'll discuss what that means in terms of validity and trustworthiness, and how could we maybe be more transparent. Nicole Jantz, she often partitions reproducibility into two related concepts. The first is duplication, and that's, can the results be duplicated, like photocopying? Can they be consistently reproduced using the same data and the same analytical techniques? And I would always say the stuff I've written on reproducibility, I've always said that I've always used the phrase about making public sufficient information that a third party who is unconnected with the original work can duplicate the results, i.e. produce exactly the same results with the same data. So, can we make sufficient information about the research process available to a third party unconnected? And the second concept really is replication, and this has a very awkward language in much of the literature, but I see it as, certainly in my area, which tends to be statistically orientated analysis of social science data, is that a replication has four things. It either has, it includes additional measures, so for example, additional explanatory variables. It includes alternative measures. So you might have a different measure of social class or a different measure of income or household income or whatever. New data, so you might have a more recent sweep of data or more recent cohort, or you may have data from a different geographical location, for example, and something that employs different data analytical techniques. So those four things, so additional measures, alternative measures, new data or new techniques, or indeed any combination of these four, for me, is a replication that builds on the original work. And really, I'm just going to stop there. So that's a sort of some ideas, some key concepts, and hopefully we can discuss that in terms of validity and trustworthiness in the DC phase, if you like. So thank you.